Subscribe to our channel for chilling tales of mystery and the unknown. In 1837, I uncovered the story of a prodigy who vanished without a trace because he cast no shadow. Stay until the end to discover the haunting truth. In 1837, I stumbled upon a crumbling journal in a London attic. Its pages yellowed and ink faded. The words within spoke of a boy named Elias Varnholt, a prodigy unlike any other. At just 12, he composed symphonies that rivaled Mozart's, his melodies weaving through the city's theaters. Yet, something about him unsettled everyone. His presence felt incomplete. I read accounts of his performances, where audiences swore he cast no shadow under the gaslights. At first, I dismissed it as superstition. But the journal's author, a theater manager, insisted it was true. Elias's brilliance was undeniable, but so was the eerie absence of a shadow. I needed to know more. The attic smelled of dust and secrets, and I felt a chill as I turned each page. Who was this boy? Why did his shadow never appear? The journal hinted at something darker, something unnatural. My curiosity became an obsession. The journal led me to a small village outside London, where Elias was born. The villagers remembered him vividly, even decades later. They spoke of a child who could solve complex equations and play any instrument by ear. But their eyes darkened when I mentioned his shadow. He wasn't right, an old woman whispered, clutching her shawl. She claimed Elias walked through the village square at noon, yet no shadow trailed him. I visited the church where he played the organ at age 10. The vicar's records described his music as heavenly but unsettling. I stood in the empty church, imagining his notes echoing. The journal mentioned his mother, a painter, who died when he was 6. Some said her death changed him. Others believed he was never human to begin with. I felt a strange pull to uncover the truth. The village held clues, but they were buried deep. I tracked down Elias's childhood home, now abandoned. The walls were cracked, the air heavy with neglect. Inside, I found sketches, his mother's work, vibrant yet haunting. One drawing showed a boy with no shadow, his eyes too large, too knowing. The journal described Elias's father, a scientist obsessed with optics and light. He conducted experiments in their basement, chasing theories about shadows and their connection to the soul. I descended the creaky stairs to the basement, my flashlight flickering. Old equipment lay scattered, lenses, mirrors, strange devices. A notebook detailed his father's belief that shadows were more than absence. They were proof of existence. Elias, it seemed, was his greatest experiment. But what had he done to his son? The air grew colder as I read. I felt watched, though I was alone. The journal revealed Elias's rise to fame in London's music halls. By 15, he was a sensation. His concerts sold out. Yet, whispers about his shadowless form spread. I found newspaper clippings praising his genius, but noting his oddity. One critic wrote, "His music is divine, but his presence is ghostly." I visited the theater where he performed most. The stage was still intact, though dusty. Standing there, I imagined Elias at the piano, the spotlight on him, yet no shadow on the floor. The journal hinted at a rival, a composer named Thomas Wren. Wren was jealous, consumed by Elias's talent. He began investigating Elias's past, digging into his father's experiments. Wren's letters, tucked into the journal, called Elias a creation, not a man. I wondered if Wren knew more than he let on. Wren's letters grew frantic, describing confrontations with Elias. He accused him of being unnatural, a shadowless abomination. I found a record of a public argument in 1836, where Wren challenged Elias to stand in sunlight. Elias refused, storming off. The journal suggested Wren hired men to follow Elias, watching his every move. They confirmed he cast no shadow, even at midday. I walked the London streets where Elias once lived, picturing him dodging prying eyes. The journal mentioned a night when Wren cornered Elias backstage. Elias's response was cryptic. "You seek what you cannot understand." I felt a knot in my stomach. Wren's obsession mirrored my own. Was Elias hiding a secret, or was he truly something beyond human? The city seemed to whisper his name as I walked. The journal took a darker turn, describing Elias's decline. By 1837, his performances grew erratic. Audiences noticed his gaunt face, his trembling hands. The shadowless rumors intensified, driving some to call him cursed. I found a doctor's report in the journal, diagnosing Elias with nervous exhaustion. But the doctor noted something odd. Elias's pulse was faint, almost non-existent. I visited the hospital where he was treated, now a museum. The curator showed me old patient logs, confirming Elias's stay. A nurse's note read, "He speaks of light as if it fears him." I shivered, imagining Elias in a dim hospital bed, shadowless even there. The journal hinted at his father's experiments resurfacing. Had they damaged him permanently? I needed to find his father's lab notes. Back in the village, I searched for the scientist's records. A local historian pointed me to an archive in a nearby manor. There, I found a box of papers labeled Varnhold Experiments. His father believed shadows were tied to the soul's essence, a bridge between body and spirit. He theorized that removing a shadow could unlock limitless potential. The notes described experiments on Elias, using lenses to manipulate light around him. I read about a machine that severed the shadow's bond. My heart raced. Had his father succeeded? The notes ended abruptly, dated just before Elias's mother's death. I wondered if she opposed the experiments. The manor's dim halls felt oppressive as I read. Elias's genius might have come at a terrible cost. I had to know what happened next. The journal described Elias's final performance in October 1837. The theater was packed, but the mood was tense. Elias played a new composition, described as otherworldly. Witnesses said the air grew heavy, the lights dimmed without cause. I found a playbill from that night, its edges brittle. The journal claimed Elias collapsed mid-performance, vanishing from the stage. No one saw him leave. I stood in that same theater, feeling a chill down my spine. The journal suggested Wren was there, watching from the shadows. Had he done something to Elias? The absence of Elias's shadow was no longer a curiosity. It was a clue. I needed to find Wren's final writings. The truth was slipping through my fingers. Wren's letters revealed his guilt. He admitted to confronting Elias that night, accusing him of being a soulless creature. Elias laughed, his voice hollow. Wren wrote, "He said I'd never understand the price of his gift." I found a police report mentioning Wren's arrest days later for disturbing the peace. He ranted about Elias, claiming he wasn't human. The journal noted Elias's disappearance after that night. No trace of him was found, not in London, not in the village. I visited the police archives, reading faded reports. One officer claimed to see Elias walking at midnight, shadowless under street lamps. My mind spun. Was Elias still out there, or had he vanished into something else entirely? The journal's final pages were missing. I returned to the attic where I found the journal, desperate for answers. Among the dust, I found a loose page, torn from the journal's end. It was Elias's handwriting, shaky and rushed. "I am not what they think," he wrote. "My father took my shadow, but not my soul." My breath caught. He described a ritual, a machine that stripped his shadow to make him limitless. But it left him untethered, neither alive nor dead. I sat in the attic, the page trembling in my hands. Elias knew what he was, and he feared it. The journal's author believed he became something else, something that walked among us unseen. I looked at the floor. No shadow of my own flickered. Had Elias's story changed me? I had to share his tale. The loose page haunted me, its words echoing in my mind. Elias's confession suggested he was still out there, shadowless and eternal. I revisited the village, seeking anyone who might know more. An elderly man, a descendant of the church vicar, shared a family legend. He said Elias appeared to his great-grandfather one night, years after 1837. The boy looked unchanged, his eyes glowing faintly. He asked for his shadow. The man said, "I felt a chill." Was Elias searching for what his father stole? The journal's author believed Elias's music held clues. I tracked down sheet music from his final performance. The notes were complex, almost chaotic. Playing them in my mind, I sensed a pattern, like a cry for release. The village seemed to watch me as I left. Back in London, I consulted a musicologist about Elias's compositions. She analyzed the sheet music, her face paling. "This isn't just music," she said. "It's a code, a plea." She pointed to recurring motifs, dissonant chords that felt alive. I played a recording of his work, feeling the air grow heavy. The musicologist suggested Elias embedded his story in the notes, a way to preserve his truth. I thought of his shadowless form, his father's experiments. Had Elias tried to reclaim his soul through music? I visited the theater again, standing where he last played. The stage felt alive, as if his presence lingered. I needed to find someone who saw him after 1837. The journal's clues were running out. A librarian in London's archives uncovered a letter, dated 1840, mentioning a shadowless boy seen near the Thames. The writer, a dock worker, described Elias playing a violin under moonlight. No shadow stretched beneath him. I walked along the Thames, imagining Elias there. The journal hinted at a secret society his father belonged to, one obsessed with light and immortality. I found their meeting records in the archives, detailing rituals to transcend the body. Elias was listed as a subject, his shadow removed to free his essence. My stomach churned. Had his father sacrificed him for science? The dockworker's letter ended with Elias vanishing into fog. I felt closer to him, yet further from answers. The secret society's records led me to a derelict manor outside London. It was their old meeting place, now crumbling. Inside, I found diagrams of a shadow-severing machine. The sketches were meticulous, showing lenses and prisms aligned to trap light. A note read, "Elias is the first success." I shuddered, picturing a boy subjected to such a device. The journal mentioned his father's death shortly after Elias's disappearance. Some believed Elias caused it, seeking revenge. I explored the manor's basement, finding remnants of the machine. Broken glass crunched underfoot. The air felt thick, as if Elias's presence lingered. I wondered if he was still trapped, shadowless and lost. The manor held his pain, but no solutions. I found a descendant of Thomas Wren, now an old man living in Oxford. He had family papers mentioning Elias. Wren's obsession had destroyed him, the old man said. After Elias vanished, Wren claimed to see him in dreams, shadowless and accusing. I read Wren's final journal, found among the papers. He wrote of guilt, believing he drove Elias to his fate. "I saw him last night," Wren wrote, "playing music that wasn't music." I felt a pang of sympathy for Wren, consumed by what he couldn't understand. The journal suggested Elias's shadow was more than absence. It was his anchor to humanity. Without it, he was adrift. I left Oxford, my mind heavy with questions. Back at the theater, I met a stagehand whose grandfather worked there in 1837. He shared a story passed down. Elias left a note backstage after his final performance. The stagehand's grandfather hid it, fearing its contents. I begged to see it. After days of searching, he found it in a family trunk. The note was brief. "I am not gone, but I am not here." My heart sank. Elias knew his fate, caught between worlds. The stagehand said his grandfather saw Elias one last time, in 1845, unchanged by time. No shadow followed him. I stood on the stage, clutching the note. The theater's silence was deafening. Elias's story was unraveling, but the truth remained elusive. The journal's author, I learned, was Elias's cousin, desperate to preserve his story. She believed Elias was still alive in some form. I found her grave in a London cemetery, her tombstone weathered but legible. A carved note read, "For Elias, who walks without shadow." I felt a connection to her, both of us chasing his mystery. The journal mentioned a final clue, a locket Elias wore, containing a fragment of his mother's painting. I tracked it to a collector in Bath. The locket was small, its painting a miniature of Elias, shadowless. The collector said it hummed faintly at night. I held it, feeling a pulse. Was Elias's essence trapped inside? The mystery deepened. I consulted a physicist about the shadow experiments. He dismissed them as pseudoscience, but admitted the theory was intriguing. Shadows, he said, are simple physics, light blocked by a body. But Elias's father believed they were more, a link to the soul. The physicist suggested the experiments might have altered Elias's physical properties, making him invisible to certain light. I thought of the locket, its faint hum. Could it hold a piece of Elias's severed shadow? I returned to the village, seeking the church organ. Playing Elias's music there, I felt a vibration, as if the notes reached beyond the physical. The church seemed to hum with his presence. I was close, but to what? The locket became my obsession. I studied it under different lights, noticing it absorbed rather than reflected. A jeweler confirmed it was no ordinary metal. The journal mentioned Elias's mother painting with pigments her husband created, tied to his experiments. I wondered if the locket was part of the shadow-severing process. I visited a chemist, who analyzed a scraping from the locket. He found traces of an unknown compound, possibly linked to light manipulation. My mind raced. Had Elias's father turned his son into something beyond human? The journal's final words echoed. Elias is not lost, but unbound. I felt him watching me, shadowless and eternal. I returned to the Thames, where Elias was last seen. The river was calm, reflecting moonlight. I played his music on a portable recorder, hoping to summon something. The air grew cold, the water still. For a moment, I thought I saw a figure, no shadow beneath. My heart pounded, but it vanished. The journal's author believed Elias could be freed by understanding his story. I sat by the river, piecing it together. His father's experiments, his mother's death, Ren's obsession, all led to his shadowless state. I felt a responsibility to tell his tale, to give him peace. The locket hummed in my pocket. Elias was out there, waiting. I began writing Elias's story, compiling every clue. The journal, Ren's letters, the locket, all pointed to a boy altered by science and loss. I visited a spiritualist, curious about the soul-shadow connection. She sensed a presence when I showed her the locket, calling it fractured. She believed Elias was neither dead nor alive, trapped by his father's machine. I felt a pang of sorrow. Had Elias wanted his genius, or was it forced upon him? The journal described his music as a cry for freedom. I played it again, transcribing the notes. Each chord felt like a plea. I published an article about him, hoping to draw out witnesses. The response was overwhelming. Readers shared stories of shadowless figures seen across England, even today. One claimed to hear Elias's music in a Cornish church, decades after 1837. I traveled there, finding the church abandoned. Inside, I played his music on an old organ. The sound reverberated, and for a moment, I felt him. No shadow appeared, but the air shifted. The journal's author believed Elias's music could bridge worlds. I recorded the session, sharing it online. Comments poured in. Some called it haunting. Others felt it was alive. I wondered if Elias was reaching out through me. The locket grew warmer in my hand. His story was spreading, but was it enough? I found a descendant of Elias's mother, living in Wales. She had a family painting, unmistakably Elias, shadowless, his eyes piercing. She shared a tale her grandmother told. Elias visited her in 1850, unchanged by time. He spoke of light and loss, begging for his shadow. I showed her the locket, and she gasped. It was her great-grandmother's. She believed Elias's soul was tied to it. I let her hold it, and she wept, saying it felt alive. I left Wales with a heavy heart. Elias's pain was real, his existence fractured. The journal's final clue pointed to a ritual to restore his shadow. But how could I perform it? The ritual, described in the secret society's records, required the locket and Elias's music played under specific conditions. I returned to the manor, setting up in the basement. The machine's remnants were still there, eerie in the dim light. I played his final composition, the locket on a table. The air grew thick, the music vibrating through the walls. I felt a presence, but no figure appeared. The journal warned the ritual was dangerous, risking the performer's own shadow. I hesitated, my hand on the locket. Was I willing to lose part of myself for Elias? The music swelled, and I pressed on. Nothing happened, or so I thought. The locket was silent now. Days later, I noticed something strange. My shadow seemed fainter, less defined. I panicked, checking under different lights. It was there, but weaker. Had the ritual affected me? I reread the journal, finding a note. To free him, one must share his fate. My heart sank. Had I taken part of Elias's curse? I published another article, detailing the ritual. Readers were fascinated, but some warned me to stop. One claimed to see Elias in London, playing a violin in an alley. I rushed there, finding nothing but echoes. The locket no longer hummed, but I felt its weight. Elias's story was now mine, intertwined. I visited a priest, seeking answers about shadows and souls. He spoke of ancient beliefs, where shadows tied the body to the divine. Losing one, he said, could trap a soul in limbo. I showed him the locket, and he recoiled, calling it tainted. He urged me to destroy it, but I couldn't. It was my only link to Elias. I returned to the theater, playing his music one last time. The stage felt alive, the air heavy with presence. I whispered his name, hoping for a sign. Nothing came, but I felt watched. The journal's author believed Elias could be freed by sharing his story. I had done that, hadn't I? Months passed, and I kept searching. I found a 1901 newspaper clipping about a shadowless boy in Edinburgh, playing music like Elias's. Was it him, still wandering? I traveled there, finding no trace. The locket remained silent, but I carried it always. Readers sent me tips, sightings, stories, even recordings of similar music. I compiled them, building a database of Elias's legacy. His story was bigger than I imagined, touching lives across centuries. I felt him in every note, every clue. My shadow remained faint, a constant reminder. I wondered if Elias was free, or if I'd taken his place. The journal's words haunted me. He is not gone, but unbound. I returned to the village, standing in the church where Elias played. I played his music on the organ, the notes filling the space. For a moment, I thought I saw him, a boy, shadowless, smiling. He vanished, but the locket pulsed once. I felt a release, as if something lifted. My shadow seemed sharper now, though not fully restored. Had I helped Elias, or was it my imagination? I wrote a final article, sharing every detail. The response was overwhelming. People felt connected to him, to his pain. I realized his story wasn't just about loss, but about resilience. Elias's music lived on, and so did he in some way. The locket is now in a museum, displayed with Elias's sheet music. Visitors report feeling a presence, hearing faint notes. I visit often, checking my shadow in the light. It's almost normal now, but I'll never be sure. Elias's story taught me about the cost of genius, the fragility of existence. His father's experiments, Ren's obsession, my own journey, all part of his legacy. I still hear his music in my dreams, a reminder of what I found. The journal is with me, its pages worn but cherished. Elias Varnholt, the forgotten prodigy, is forgotten no more. His shadowless form lingers, a mystery I'll never fully solve. I stand by the Thames at night, where Elias was last seen. The river reflects the stars, and I feel him near. His story is out there now, shared with the world. I wonder if he's at peace, or still searching for his shadow. The locket's silence suggests he's moved on, but I'll never know. My shadow is mine again, though it feels borrowed. Elias's music plays in my mind, a haunting melody. I've told his tale, but it's not over. If you see a shadowless figure, playing music under moonlight, let me know. His story lives through us. Subscribe to our channel to uncover more mysteries like Elias's. Together, we'll keep his legacy alive. If this tale of Elias Varnholt, the shadowless prodigy, gripped you, subscribe to our channel for more haunting stories. Hit the bell to never miss a mystery, and share your thoughts in the comments. Have you seen a shadowless figure?